Welcome back to another episode of Ancient Echoes. If you are new here, thank you for spending your evening with us. Hit that like and subscribe button. My name is Bronson Long. I am accompanied, as always, by my older brother, Austin. We are wearing matching colors tonight. That was not on purpose. But what is on purpose is we are going to have a really awesome study tonight on a Christian conspiracy topic. Tonight, Austin, we're going to be diving into some really neat topics about the ether, man. You take a second to let our audience know
Yeah,
what it is.
yeah. Welcome to Christian Conspiracy. Tonight, this is my favorite night of the week. We get to talk about all things far out and relate it back to the Bible. And a lot of times, when we talk about actually originates in the Bible and other ancient stories. But tonight, we're getting into something that's coming back into the public sphere of knowledge, the Aether. Some people call it the ether, some people call it the Aether. The Aether, which we will get the best understanding that we can to tonight. Um, a lot of what we're talking about tonight comes from the knowledge of Nikola Tesla, and I'm just really excited to get into it. So, how you doing tonight, Bros? Are you doing good, man?
Man, I'm kicking it, bro. I got to take a second in the beginning of this episode, and I know you feel the same way, to appreciate and say thank you for all the love we got for the past couple of videos that have come out. Our channel is officially over 100 subscribers on YouTube. Um,
Ooh.
we have a video with over 1,000 views, and man, I am absolutely floored and humbled by it. To be completely honest with you, I never in my lifetime thought we would do something like this. Man, this just went from you and me being on the phone, having long conversations as brothers, to let's try and record it, and all of a sudden, man. We're getting 1,000 views on videos, and it just means the world to me, and I'm sure it does to you too. So thank you guys very much for giving us all that appreciation and support, man. We really appreciate that. So
Yeah, and it may seem small, just 1,000 views, 100 subscribers, but we really just started doing this so our kids would be able to look back and see how we thought about things, and to so we could pass down the understanding that we have and maybe learn some more stuff. And we've been doing these conversations with each other for years and years and years. We're talking about a decade at least. Oh man, probably much longer than that.
yeah, give or
But
take.
so we just kind of started sharing it with the world, and we do appreciate you guys subscribing and coming and watching the videos and everything. We really do.
Yeah.
You guys are awesome. So big day for the channel. Our first full length video. We had a couple of shorts, but our first full length video over 1,000 views, which is a 2 hour long video. So I appreciate you guys bringing it in there. And hitting over 100 subscribers was cool. That's awesome. We love to have you guys. We're going to keep putting out content and having these discussions, because honestly, if it wasn't on here, we'd be doing it anyway. But we're glad to share it with you guys. We love hearing from you guys. One thing I do want to say before we get started, and I'll shut up, and we have lots of clips to get into, lots of interesting stuff, and this is going to be, we may even have to split this in two parts. It's going to be a longer show, and it ties into probably what we're going to be talking about in an upcoming Christian conspiracy. But in our last video, the teachings of the Watchers in Gen 6 in our commentary, I said that the Amorites displaced the Zamzummim in Ammon. I was wrong. It was the Ammonites, because it's Ammon. I got that twisted up, and I just wanted to make sure that I did correct that. So we try to be as honest as we can. So I wanted to correct that before we went further. I got twisted up on that. So it was Ammonites, not Amorites. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it, man. Enough of us bumping our gums. Let's get into the cool stuff.
Let's do this thing. All right. So tonight's episode, the ether. Let's hit the screen share and get this thing going, bro. All right. A brief introduction into the ether, man. We got our man here named Mr. Nikola Tesla, and this quote on the screen, if you're listening, not watching: if you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. A quote from Nikola Tesla.
Energy, frequency, and vibration. So that's, I would like to ask everybody to kind of put your preconceived notions about what you know about this place, just put them off to the side for right now. The more I learn, the more I realize how much I don't know. So this is a new concept for us, really. We don't really have too firm of a footing in it. So we're going to be learning all together tonight, guys. Um, but just try and think of things a little bit differently, almost a little more holistically. Okay.
Mm.
Not such in a manufacturing standpoint that, things can be. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of ley lines and things like that and energies of the earth and stuff like that. And this isn't going to be some occult thing at all. This is just all just natural stuff that we're going to be talking about tonight. And we're going to be tying in some verses into it real early. But just look at this. If you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. All right, Bronson, let's go ahead and dive into the Bible and let's look at a few of these verses that go right along with this quote.
Yeah, for sure. So our first verse of the night, guys, we're going right into the book of Joshua. We're in chapter 6, and we will start. And let's just go straight into verse 20. We're talking about the walls of Jericho here. Verse 20 says, "So the people shouted when the priest blew the trumpets, and it came to pass when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city." Very famous story. Walls of Jericho is typically how people would title this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it talks about how they were marching around the city and yeah, blowing the trumpets before this. It goes. I think 27 verses talking about the Jericho story here. But yeah, so we see that they blow the trumpets and they shout, and the walls fell down flat.
Hmm. Yeah, they walk around the city. They stay quiet for a while. There's a lot of. It's really interesting. Some of the
Well,
steps.
God gives them specific directions on exactly what to do here and when to blow the trumpets and all that. And we'll get into that, I'm sure, in our commentaries coming up because I love Joshua, man. I would love to do a commentary on Joshua. If you guys aren't familiar, that's basically a war book. Um, my daughter is reading it right now. She loves it. All right, let's go on to the next one, man. So that's one instance that we have of sound or frequency and vibration.
Right, right.
Yeah, like Tesla said, we got to start thinking about energy, frequency, and vibration. Okay.
Over here in the book of First Samuel, chapter 16, our King Saul is being tormented by a spirit, and our second king, David, gets hired. In verse 22, Saul sent to Jesse, saying, "Let David, I pray thee, stand before me, for he hath found favor in my sight." And it came to pass, when the evil spirit from God was upon Saul, that David took an harp and played it with his hand. So Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him.
Hmm. That's very interesting because he's playing an instrument, generating sound, frequency, and vibration, and in the physical realm, and it's having an effect in the spiritual realm.
Right. I've heard people say before, giving out this argument, well, it's just when you get sleepy, you need good music or whatever. You get sad, you need good
That's,
music.
I
Right.
mean, that's not what it says.
The evil spirit departs from him. Doesn't say Saul got in
Yeah.
a good mood. Mm.
Yeah, it didn't say that he just needed it to relax. No, it said the evil spirit was upon Saul. And it says Saul was refreshed and was well, and the evil spirit departed from him. It doesn't say anything about needing rest or anything like that. It says he's refreshed, but it had to do with the evil spirit.
Mhm.
Honestly, it gets me so irritated. People trying to take the supernatural out of the Bible and
Yeah.
trying to explain it with this secular mindset that we've been bred into here. It's irritating. It plainly says what it says.
Right. They try to put therapy into everything. Everything's just, a mental illness or some, you know what I'm saying? It's pretty sad actually. It's an evil spirit, man. The Bible says what it says. So, speaking of says, here in um, Genesis 1 verse 3, and God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And we see this all throughout the first chapter of Genesis.
1:6, and God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." It
Yep.
just keeps going down, and God said, and God said, and God said. Every
Right.
time He creates, so He's creating with sound, frequency, and vibration.
Right. Right.
He's speaking it into existence.
Right. In the book of John, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God and was with God.
Yes.
Um, there's something going on here in that Greek word. That word is logos, if you guys are unfamiliar. And something's going on here with speaking and frequency and sound, and it's appropriate, I believe, for Christians to have a good understanding of what's going on here. For the secular world is very interested in sound, frequencies, and energies. It's a good thing for a Christian to have a godly perspective on what they're talking about. That's why we're doing the show tonight. And Austin has set up an incredible playlist of clips and videos for us to take a look into. So I'm going to do some sitting back here. Austin, man, you take the reins. Just tell me where we need to go, man.
All right, well, let's look at that quote from Tesla one more time.
Yeah.
We've seen some biblical precedents for this. If you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. All right, so let's go. Let's get one more clip on sound. Now, this is Terrence Howard. He's a Academy Award-winning actor. Um, yeah, I first met him in Hustle and Flow. I don't know about you guys, but anyways, he's an out there kind of guy, but he has some theories that are interesting, and they do have some precedents. And now he goes a little haywire in this interview. I don't know if you guys have seen it; it's been going viral, but this I think there's some real gold in some of the stuff he says. Now, some of the stuff he says I don't agree with, but some of it, there's some real gold there, and at least it's a different perspective. So let's go through this video.
Yeah, for sure. Run a quick sound check.
Periodic table is laid out. The periodic table they have now.
Let's see.
It looks like a box. It looks like a straight box. But they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
Same tone, same key of E. Same key of E. 40.5 hertz. The next one would be like 81 hertz. You go to silicon, it will double up and would be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt, and it'll be 324 hertz. It's take the angles of incidence or the tones that they create, their color. Like you can turn color back into sound based upon, it's the same wavelength, it's just twice as long or much longer. So all you have to do is keep dividing light by 2. You keep dividing light by 2, and you'll ultimately get back to the audible sound of it, because there was a relationship between light and color, sound and tone, matter and shape. Walter Russell's periodic table that he put together. Now you compare that to Mendeleev's periodic table, and you'll see something completely different. It's unwinding.
Whoa.
And you see there's a relationship that hydrogen.
So you had figured this out at a young age?
I had already seen this. This was all inside of that palace. I had access to it, and I knew the relationship.
You saw this in dreams?
I saw it as a circle. Everything was a full circle laid out, and each area was just expanding, like wrapping a rag around your hand. The first wrap, it's so tight. This is how I saw it more so, but as a vortex. You'll see there's a relationship between hydrogen, carbon, silicon, cobalt, rhodium. They're all bonded. They're all sit as the middle point between 2 noble gases. So those things don't really exist. It's only one substance. Now the problem is, the first thing that we're able to perceive is hydrogen. That's the first visible element, because before it is too dense for us to perceive it. You understand what I'm saying? As you reach into the next octave, the carbon octave, and they call that a bisexual tone, because the carbon has 2 tones to it. It has a negative side and a positive side. The part where lithium behaves, lithium is contractive, beryllium is contractive. Boron is contractive, but the moment you get to carbon, you balance it out. Gets to a perfect balance of plus and minus 4. So it's a double tone. Nitrogen is -3, oxygen is -2, fluorine is -1. Now the balance of this, all of those are mates. Fluorine and lithium naturally mate. If you have lithium bonded with any other element, the moment that fluorine is introduced, it will break all bonds violently so it can bond with fluorine. Same thing with beryllium and oxygen. That's why it said, and what they've tried to keep from us, if you want to break water into its component parts of hydrogen and oxygen, all you have to do is introduce beryllium or the sound of beryllium, and oxygen will violently break away from any other thing, even hydrogen, to bond with that beryllium.
Wow. Wow.
Now, if you guys heard, he was talking in terms of sound in relation to these elements. Okay, did you notice that, Bronson?
Yeah, absolutely. I really, really enjoyed listening to that, man. That was very.
Well, let's go back to Genesis 1.
Mm-hmm. And God said, "Let there be light," and there was light.
It talked about the sound of light, how you can divide it by two. Well, that kind of lines up here. He spoke and light came. Okay, so let's go down here to 1:6. And God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, let it divide the waters from the waters." God spoke, and it happened. And each one of these elements has, according to Terrence Howard and the people behind him, it has a tone to it. You see what I'm saying? Do you see how he talked about how the hydrogen separated from the oxygen?
Yeah, absolutely, man. And very, very, very fascinating stuff there, man.
Yeah, it ties right in. Now tonight the episode is mainly on the Aether and free energy in general. So this is going to be, I think we're going to do another episode on this when we go a little bit more in depth, but we're just going to give an introduction to this rabbit hole, because I believe there's some substance to it, and there's I think there's a lot of good things we can do with this, and there's some bad things already being done with it. So if we could, let's go to that next video.
Sure.
Now, guys, when I saw this years ago, and I thought it was fake. But the more that I'm understanding, I just kind of just dismissed it because it was so crazy. But the more I'm understanding, well, let's let this video speak for itself because it screams loudly.
Let's do it.
I don't know enough to be able to say this isn't true, but I'm also don't know enough to say it is true. It's Friday. I thought we'd have some fun by looking at something that I don't know, might be true, probably not, but could be. I know that Ashton Forbes has done his homework. He's an intelligent human being, and knows the science behind all of this, and may be right. I don't know. Ashton is with us. He told me half an hour ago, he kind of feels like every day he's like, I don't know. So we're about to show some video here, Ashton, of the plane and this is the main thing that you say needs to be looked at. Tell me about the video, what we're about to hear and see, and where we got the video.
Yeah, so this video has been on the internet since 2014. We've been able to trace it back to an account called Regicide Anon. The very first video, satellite video, says received March 12th, 2014, source protected. It was published May 19th, 2014. This is 9 days before the raw telemetry.
All right, guys, do you see those three orbs that are hovering around that airplane? Check this out. Yeah, look at that. 1, 2, and 3. Now, watch as this airplane goes, and just keep your eyes on that airplane. In case you're just listening at home, keep your eyes on the back of that airplane as these three orbs are going around this plane. Now, don't blink, you'll miss it. Go ahead, sir.
Here we go.
Was published May 19th, 2014. This is 9 days before the raw telemetry data, those satellite pings, were first available to the public. And that's why it's so important when we see those coordinates in the bottom left. The second video was supposedly received June 5th, 2014, published June 12th, 2014, on the same channel. Most people ignore.
Roll that back one more time. I've seen this a few times, and it still gets me.
This is crazy, man.
In the bottom left. The second video was supposedly received June 5th, 2014, published June 12th, 2014, on the same channel.
Gone.
One more. Here we go. Don't blink.
Supposedly received June 5th, 2014, published June 12th, 2014, on the same channel. Most people ignored this footage. A lot of people have said that they saw it back in 2014. I saw the drone video back in 2014. I ignored it like most people did. I think it's only in 2023, 2024 that we could even begin to understand that what we see there is potentially real, because science on the public side is slowly catching up. These private defense contractors, they know this stuff is real, and that's how far ahead they are from us. So they are potentially 50 or 100 years beyond what the public might think is possible. We had a $150,000 bounty for the hoaxer to come forward with proof of their source work, because somebody didn't make these with just one shot. It would have taken lots of time and effort to put these together. There's not one discrepancy on a single frame in either video, no errors anywhere. The clouds actually do move and evolve in the satellite video. People don't think that they do because they don't realize how far away the satellites are potentially from the Earth and how each perspective is only a few seconds. The zap of the satellite video accurately illuminates the volumetric clouds in 3 dimensions. There's no reference copy to copy any of this from, which is a prerequisite for producing CGI. Because we have 2 videos from different perspectives that are perfectly in sync with one another, and you can see the same clouds and even triangulate the drone position, this would require a full 3D rendered environment.
Now, the one on the right-hand side is satellite footage. The one on the left-hand side that is the thermal footage. So this is happening at the same exact time, and all the clouds and everything have to line up. And this is what this guy is saying, is that everything is lining up. What he's trying to get across is they can't find where this was fake. They have a $150,000 bounty out that they'll pay somebody if they can show that they faked this. So there's a lot of money on the line. So if somebody would have faked this and came forward and could show this, they would have 150 grand right there. We have 2 videos showing the same exact thing at the same exact time with the same clouds. Everything looks the same, and nobody can find that this is fake. This appears to be very, very, very real, guys. So I just want to point that out to you. Just let it ride, Bronson, but check this out on the right-hand side. You can see it lines up perfectly.
Environment using hardware and software from before 2014. This also predates all commercial AI as well as deepfake technology. So if people think that you could recreate this, I guarantee you this is not some simple recreation in order to pull this off. Now, even more important than that, the details in the videos are scientifically accurate. What we're looking at here is something called macroscopic phase conjugation. It is essentially functionally equivalent to Star Trek warp drive. This is science that would be consistent with what Tesla had put forth and other people like Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden in the 80s. The simplest explanation I could give is that there is an extra dimension that we do not perceive that our reality is painted onto. We're going to bring back the term the ether, which is something that Tesla promoted. This is how we get the negative energy requirement that we need in order for a wormhole to exist.
Did you hear what he just said? Bronson, can we go back about 15 seconds?
Which is something that Tesla promoted. This is how we get the negative energy requirement that we need in order for a wormhole to exist.
He said that word
back a little ways. Yeah.
the ether.
That our reality is painted onto. We're going to bring back the term the ether, which is something.
He's right there. He just said the ether.
Go back a little bit more. There we go.
Star Trek warp drive. This is science that would be consistent with what Tesla had put forth and other people like Lieutenant Colonel Thomas Bearden in the 80s. The simplest explanation I could give is that there is an extra dimension that we do not perceive that our reality is painted onto. We're going to bring back the term the ether, which is something that Tesla promoted. This is how we get the negative energy requirement that we need in order for a wormhole to exist.
All right,
the macroscopic phase conjugation.
All right, so they're tapping into another dimension that our reality is painted on. And then goes right back to talking about the ether, because you need that for the negative energy to be able to do this. Okay? So this started to open my eyes big time. Looking at this and knowing what I've read into on Tesla and free energy and the Aether, and always being skeptical of what I was taught in school about lots of things. Go check our other videos for that. But man, seeing this plane just get teleported to the demon realm, for a lack of better term. Oh my God, man. The implications of this are just insane.
The fact that you can see it on satellite cameras, what's crazy. It's one thing to catch something like that on thermal when you're seeing, a collected force of heat circulating the airplane, but on a satellite, you can see those circles, those orbs, whatever you want to call them, circulating the plane. Let's say you're a little younger than I am and you don't even know what we're talking about here. This was huge, man, when this happened. This was all over everything. All your major news sites, this was for weeks on end. We couldn't find this airplane. So we were checking our analytics the other day, and we know we have a couple of younger people that watch. You might not remember this, but this was a major event where everybody was wondering, where did this airplane go? And here we are years later, and this video is surfacing, and it's getting a lot of attention. And the fact that they can't prove that the video was fake is speaks volumes, man.
Yeah, dude, they just teleported a plane to nowhere.
Yeah. It makes you wonder, could the people on the plane see those orbs? The fact that you can see it on satellite, I wonder if it was, to the naked eye, the passengers on the plane, if they could see.
Well, they're saying the passengers were passed away before this even happened. The plane was on fire or something. I don't know. Let's hope that they were. I would hate for them to go where I think they went. That's terrifying.
Absolutely.
And then if you put this into the context of what they're doing at CERN, okay, if they can open up something like that in the middle of the sky and get a airplane that's flying through the sky, and who knows how fast, we'd have to ask our brother, but imagine what they could do underground with no eyes on them, and just in a steady area. My God, man, it's terrifying.
Right.
You start thinking about it, only by the grace of God, man. Only by the grace of God that we're still here, and these psychopaths haven't ripped this place in two.
Right.
All right, man. Let's go ahead and keep this video going, because he gets into it a lot. But I wanted to point out what he said about tearing the dimensions and about the Aether coming back, because that's very, very important. And the other dimensions, I mean, us Christians have been believing in this for a long time in the spiritual realm. And this is, science catching up with religion real fast. And it seems that, science and religion go hand in hand more often than you would think.
Yeah. Pretty wild.
Not in a good way, most of the time.
Wow. So you want to keep this video going for a little bit longer?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Uses something called mixed wave interferometry. It's very similar to holography in terms of making a hologram. We have our 3 pump waves, which is our 0-point system that we see with our orbs and creating that triangle formation. And then we have a 4th orb that we do not see on the screen here, which is essentially shooting a phase conjugate wave into that, and then it gets a perfectly reflected beam going back the other direction. So essentially, we are creating a gravitational wave here through electromagnetics, and then we are having this plane slingshot, like pulling on a rubber band and letting go of one side from one location to another. So what I'm saying here is this is not aliens. This is our technology. I don't know where we got it, and I don't frankly really care. I think it could go as far back as 1943 in the Philadelphia experiment, maybe even the Manhattan Project. But what I want people to know is that Tesla was right. The event that we see in the thermal is an endothermic event. It's an absorption of energy. This is, again, consistent with what Thomas Bearden promoted in the 80s, talking about cold explosions, absorbing energy from one location and having it reappear somewhere else. This may even be the first endothermic event ever recorded, as far as I know.
Now, basically, what you're talking about is we're making a wormhole, right? Yeah.
And so this goes back to an idea that has been promoted by Einstein, or ER equals EPR. Leonard Susskind and Juan Maldacena have promoted this, which is the idea that an Einstein-Rosen bridge, a wormhole, could be consistent with Einstein-Podolsky-Rosen, which is quantum entanglement. We know we can teleport quantum information.
Right. That's
already been proven. But the idea is, how do we do that on a macroscopic scale? Juan Maldacena has actually recently, in the last 4 years, promoted humanly traversable wormholes as well as papers. So the idea that you could go through a wormhole and you're not going to be ripped to shreds. In fact, we were just looking recently on my live streams, 2 different Defense Intelligence Agency papers, one called Warp Drive, Dark Energy, and Manipulation of Extra Dimensions, and the other one called Traversable Wormholes, Stargates, and Negative Energy. Both of these papers pretty much lay out exactly what we see in those videos. And the only thing that people are confused about is how do you get the negative energy requirement? Well, once you add the idea of the ether and we get rid of all this quantum fluctuations and virtual particles that physicists talk about now, that's just the ether with extra steps. So we just go back to the idea of having the ether. And if you have a high enough energy intensity, you break through the Schwinger limit. And now our kind of local space-time becomes nonlinear.
Okay.
And it's going to self-correct.
Okay. You're way over my head. I'm sure you're way over everybody else's head. But I wanted you to show you're not an idiot when it comes to science. Now, go back to the video. Let's show it. It's the blue video with the heat signature of the plane, which is that the satellite video?
No, that one's our drone video. So the satellite video is going to be the white and kind of blue one.
Okay.
And we believe this is happening at night, and it's false color IR in the satellite,
So,
and in the drone video it's thermal.
Okay, so we see in the thermal video, the drone video, we see one object, round object, coming to the plane and then kind of making a weird kind of path around the plane. Then 2 others come and they triangulate the plane and spin quickly around the center or the nose of the plane. I can't tell which.
So what they do right away is they're spinning around it in a spherical formation. This is clearly mapping the plane to some degree. My guess is what they're doing is they're trying to figure out how big the mouth of the wormhole needs to be to encompass the entire plane, so they can produce the exact right amount of energy that's necessary. And then they actually reorient about halfway through, and then they begin to go vertical around the plane in a ring formation, which if you look at the right-hand rule in electrical engineering, you'll find that then the vector based on this would be backwards, which when this dark event happens, actually you can see we've overlaid it. The plane slightly moves backwards into this wormhole as well. So this is actually also consistent with electrical engineering principles.
Okay.
And I have to go ahead.
I'm sorry. We just have such little time, and I mean, I would urge people who want to know more to go to your website and follow this. But these 3 things open up, and then there's this like black blotch. It just looks like what is that? That's energy.
Yeah, so this is technically what we're looking at there is a cold event, an endothermic event, an absorption of energy. So I would argue that what we're looking at there is the mouth of the wormhole. And if you want to think of it in layman's terms, what you think is you're ripping through the fabric of reality there. So if you think of our reality as a painting, you're ripping the painting off and you're looking at the underlying canvas there. And it's quickly closing up again right after.
Okay, so let me go to the other. It's like a black and white or black and blue and white kind of. You see the clouds, you see the plane coming in. This is secret. This is our satellite tracking system.
Yeah, so we don't look through satellites individually anymore. I mean, it's 2024, even in 2014, we use ground-based computers, and then they can rebuild using ground-based computers and software, a tracking mechanism. And that's how we're able to look at it like this without seeing the satellite move.
Okay.
And then what I was going to say, in the thermal video too, there was heat signatures in the orbs as well, which is consistent with topological monopoles that was only publicly available from the Aalto University paper in 2015, a year after these videos as well. So the science that we see in here really wasn't even publicly available at the time when these videos were released and made public.
And all of a sudden in the second video, you see the flash and the plane just disappear. Now, this seems...
Join large-scale battles with military vehicles. The online action game...
Yeah, man. Well, that is crazy.
Dude. It's something about a Stargate or a video game or something, man. That's just...
Yeah, it's like a portable Stargate, man. It's insane. Absolutely insane.
Ridiculously... unbelievable. You know what I mean? Because it's just, you don't see it. How could this possibly be true? But the science would show that it's possible if you play it out. But why would we do this?
Yeah. And then why cover it up? And what I would say is that we are potentially looking at the most secret classified super weapons in the United States military arsenal. We dropped the atomic bomb in 1945. That was 79 years ago. And people still think that nuclear weapons are the most powerful weapon we have. No, the military has figured out a unification theory of quantum field mechanics and general relativity. And now we have gravity manipulation and space-time manipulation. This type of weapon is unstoppable on this planet. Whoever has this technology controls the planet. This is why the cover-up. This is why they want us talking about social issues and nobody looking at what kind of advanced technology.
Why would we allow this to? Why did we do this to this plane?
Yeah, and doing this to this plane, again, so you would say that the only logical explanation in my mind, this is a show of force. We wanted China and Russia to see this. We want to say, you're going to try to steal our guys that know how this technology works, the guys that make the microchips, potentially know the plasma physics. In this case, the microchip producers, that what we see in these orbs here, there's a plasma field around the orbs. If you look up hypersonic weapons, that's what you need to make a hypersonic weapon work so that they can move at the speeds at which they do, is a plasma sheet around them. So within this is some smaller object, and I guarantee that there are very advanced microchips within that small object as well.
Okay.
And you could argue that those are the reasons why we're trying to do this. And they didn't expect these videos to leak, of course, but they would expect China and Russia to have their own satellites, and they would have some idea of, whoa, what did somebody just do to this plane? And this is like, hey, don't mess with us.
So what's going on here is with this plane is just absolutely insane. And the fact that we have this technology is mind-blowing. But if you heard what he said about the hypersonic missiles, you need this kind of tech for the hypersonic missiles. Now, who is the world leader in hypersonic missiles? Bronson, do you remember?
In our 2024 video we just released, it was Russia, right?
Yeah, Russia. Now, so if they have this same kind of tech, then they have the same kind of knowledge that we do. So don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they have something like this too, or a different application for something like this. So it's not just us that has it. Not anymore, at least.
The thought of interdimensional warfare is crazy. Think
about the Book of Revelation. What is that?
Right.
I mean, really.
Wow.
I mean, it's, how do you think that they called the nations together to make war with God?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
They must have the illusion that they have weapons that can do something to God.
Right. They certainly believe it,
Right. And when you see stuff like this kind of power, you understand how they can be so delusional. It's beyond science fiction. It's beyond science fiction. All right, let's let this video play out and listen closely to what he says about this. He's going to give you the sources for this video, where he believes it comes from, just to give it some more validation. And then listen to what's said here at the end about Nikola Tesla.
If you try to do this again, we're going to zap you to wherever we need to. Right. But I agree, it's a huge risk to be filming this. And I think that we've only developed this warp drive technology based on the papers, probably in the early to mid, maybe even late 2000s. So I don't think this was a test, but I also don't think that this technology has been out there for decades and decades. I think that to get it to this point is probably relatively recently. But that's a good question.
So I've only got about a minute left, and man, there's just so much to cover with you. But the last question is, who leaked this? How did we get this?
I'm glad we did that. So Edward C. Lynn is the guy. If you look up his case, he took a plea deal to went to prison for 6 years on a 9-year sentence. His timeline of being the VPU-2 Wizard Squadron's a spy plane program is from February 2014, where he first gets investigated April 2nd, 2014. The defense argued the classified information and questions available on the internet. The VP Squadron has deployments in Diego Garcia military base. The military was afraid that if this case went to trial, they would have to show what the information was that he leaked to damage national security so badly. I FOIA'd the NCIS, and they rejected my FOIA in total to be kept secret in the interest of national defense or foreign policy. And he was caught with flight manifests that include search and rescue code names as well. So if anyone disbelieves or whatever, we have absolute proof that if you just go talk to Edward C. Lin, if we can get him to come forward and admit that he leaked these videos, if these videos are real, he's the guy. I gave this information to the AARO, the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office. They responded back a couple of weeks ago saying, Mr. Forbes, my apologies for the slow response. AARO is researching several topics. Some of AARO's initial research into MH370 has revealed the U.S. government's search efforts after the airliner disappeared from radar. I believe the genesis and authenticity of the videos may be helpful. Can you confirm the date the videos were posted to the Regicide Anon YouTube channel? And yes, a quick follow-up call may be helpful. They've ghosted me since then. If these videos are real, they will be able to authenticate them.
Ashton, I honestly don't know what to think. But that's pretty much about everything right now. In some ways, I hope that you're right. All the people were most likely dead because of the fire, right? When this happened?
My approach. Yeah, okay. It's not looking good. So I always like to give the condolences to the family. We've got a fire event, Boeing planes I don't trust at all. Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me if they spew toxic smoke when they start on fire and kill everybody. So even when we get to the zap, it's not looking great. So I don't want to give anybody false hope out there. What I do want to tell people is that if this is real, then free energy is real. And that will change our entire planet. If you imagine the implications of free energy, you can see why they would hide this. We have everything to gain from these videos and nothing to lose.
Yeah, that's really what caused the downfall of Tesla. He had free energy, I believe, and you can't put a meter on free energy, and that's the real problem. Money, always. Ashton, thank you so much. I appreciate it. God bless.
Thank you, Glenn. I appreciate you, man.
You bet. You can follow him. His website.
Dude.
Yep. Can't put a meter on free energy.
Bro, that is...
I don't think that that's the whole story of why they're hiding it from us either. What do you think about the whole video, Bronson? We played the whole thing. I wanted to play it because it's mind blowing. And if you guys want to do your own research, he gives you the guy who he thinks it is, and he put in FOIA request, and you can go check him out on X, and his X page is awesome. I've gone through it a few times. Really intelligent guy. Do you have any thoughts on the video?
Quite a few, man. And honestly, in some ways, I'm at a loss for words. I mean, for one, it's very impressive that the man who is narrating the video can, articulate a lot of scientific and even engineering things there. This is so deep when he's talking about electromagnetism. We're talking about frequencies and sound all put together, the Aether all put together. He's bringing up free energy. This is, to me, it's very intriguing. It's very intriguing. You're looking at something that I don't think is a very easy, simple thing to understand for all of its properties, But I'm just very interested to see where this type of subject goes. It's gaining popularity. It's getting a lot of attention. And in today's world, it's hard to silence things like that when you've got channels like ours and many others that are doing the same thing, that are just pushing this stuff out there, man. So
now, you heard him talk about getting the negative charge for the Aether.
Yeah.
Now, we have another clip coming up. We're going to show you in just a few minutes that is just showing practical uses. Just to test it out. And there's numerous videos of this online. You can look these up, and some of the things you'll find on the Aether are very new age, and you get a lot of the real stuff, chi and all that. And I'm not saying that doesn't have something to do with it, but I believe that there are practical uses too. And if it's a part of creation, then I believe that the Father put it here for us to use. Now, this could have been something that the Watchers corrupted and taught corrupt ways to do, but I believe this is something that mankind, I would say almost worldwide, was tapping into for energy in times gone past. And I think a lot of the ancient architecture shows signs that could be a possibility. So we're going to go down this rabbit hole a little bit, and I'm sure a lot of you guys have been down this, but we're going to show some of these videos, and let's take a look at this ether in practice, just so everybody can get, we showed the airplane being teleported to God knows where, and that's a big one to swallow. But once you see that, let's look at some practical, everyday things that most of us have in our house, and these tests that he's doing. And me and Bronson are going to be doing some tests coming up too. So let's just take a look at this, just to bring it back down to a smaller scale instead of teleporting airplanes. Let's bring it back down to some copper wires and things like me and you can understand.
Let's do it.
All right.
So check out this video where a man attaches a copper wire and flies a drone up to about 115 meters and shows off the ether in action.
All right, I'm gonna stop at 115 and hold steady. All right, it didn't blow up yet.
Oh, by the way, meet the aerial film crew. I just thought this was a cool shot.
Oh yeah, I'm getting shocked right now.
This time I just used the electroscope as a quick voltage check. Woo! Now that's a few thousand volts right there. All right, let's see if there's enough current to make this Franklin bell work. Oh, dude! Freaking working, buddy! Yeah. It's a really cool process. The aerial wire places a positive charge on this can, which then influences the foil ball to deliver electrons from the grounded can, which is directly connected to Earth. The clouds finally opened up, so I connected up the corona motor. Like before, one side was connected to ground, while the other was attached to the aerial wire. And after just a few seconds, hey, she's spinning!
Oh, look at it spinning!
This is just remarkable. It never really spun that fast, but
Wow.
I just sat and enjoyed the miracle. I mean, I quite literally was siphoning energy straight from the atmosphere. This motor was operating off of several kilovolts, which you could actually hear if you stopped the motor and brought your finger near the aerial wire. That's the sound of coronal discharge. Not long after, the wind started picking up, so we packed up.
Wow.
Yeah, man. That just, a very, very, very simplistic way to show that, maybe Tesla wasn't so crazy with his free energy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
And
man.
just imagine what we could do to that. We could bring, power and civilization and just off the electricity alone to all corners of the earth. I mean, what you could do with free energy is just, and that was just a little bitty cable, and you see he was powering. He had his little, oh my goodness, little gyro there, and it was just spinning and spinning and spinning, man. It's wild. But what if we could really tap into this place for free energy? It's something as simple as that.
Yeah, it's literally just the sky and the ground meeting. That's all you do. You're just connecting the sky and the ground together. That's all you're doing to get the power there, man. It's very, very cool.
I love that. I don't know if you can see it.
See what?
No, a bunch of hearts came up. It's all right, man. All right, so let's go on to this next video, man.
Yeah, sure. So cool there. I'm gonna press this X and hope that nothing bad happens. Here I go. There we go. All right. I'm tired of technical difficulties, man. Let's see.
Screen share.
All right. So this video here is going to try to answer the question of why don't we know this stuff? If it's as simple as putting an iron rod on the ground, connecting a ground wire to that, that ground wire goes to something like a battery. The positive side of that battery is connected to a copper wire. The copper wire sends up into the atmosphere, taking in the voltage, moving it down, and then charging the battery. That seems like a very, very simple process. And it's something we've got all the ingredients here to do. We were going to run the test, but my balloons ran out of helium. So we weren't able to, I don't own a drone yet. So anyway.
Well, did you see the buildings at the beginning of that video? The last one?
No, I wasn't looking at it. No.
Yeah, let's go back to that last video. Let's zoom in on those buildings real quick. Because that's the important part.
On this video right here, where he did the practical?
I can't see your screen.
Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. My fault. In this video here?
Very
Check out
beginning.
this video
Can we
where a
zoom in
man
on that?
attaches a copper wire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
really, this is the important part. The applications. Go back to that last one, man. And there's 3 or 4 images here at the beginning of this video that are pretty important.
Yeah. You talking about buildings? I was like, man, I thought he was in a ballpark. Yeah. Here we go.
All right. Can we zoom in a little bit, or is that as big as we can get it?
It will not let me. So sorry.
All right, that's okay. But you see, all right. So you see the Aether coming into that. I guess it would be some kind of a copper receiver.
Mm-hmm.
We have the dome cavity resonator, and all right. So let's go. Let's push play real quick and go to the next.
So check
next
out this
image
video where a man attaches a copper wire and flies.
right there. All right. So everybody, I think, has seen a church that has this dome with the steeple, and you see it on all the old cathedrals. And I mean, I'd like you to also think about like obelisks, like in Egypt, or like the Washington Monument, and think about it. You have the obelisk, you have the reflecting pool, which water does what with electricity?
Conducts.
Right. And then you have on the other end the Capitol building with the dome on top. And this seems to be a common theme for like at the Vatican. They have the same thing. You have the obelisk with the reflecting pool, and you have the big spires and with the domes right there at the Vatican. All right, let's push play and see if there's one more.
A drone up to about 115 meters and shows
right
off.
there. All right. So this is the hypothesis that these spires somehow were able to pull down energy from the Aether, and that's how things in what they call the old world were powered. I am not a scientist. I do not understand how this works 100% or even 50%. But I do know that that guy just tested it and it happened. He just saw that airplane disappear into nothing, and it doesn't make sense without the Aether. We know that Nikola Tesla claimed to have had free energy, and I'll show you a picture later of his tower that was pulling down this free energy that he built. And it seems like this technology was wiped from the knowledge of the human race. It seems like it was done on purpose, that it's hidden from us and kept from us. What do you think, Bronson? Just looking at these pictures, do you have any kind of ideas?
Yeah, I do. I mean, and I always try to. I think it's healthy for most Christians. This is a Christian conspiracy video. I think it's healthy for Christians to step back sometimes and think about what a non-believer would be asking you. Maybe some of the scrutinies and speculations they may have, and it's not that this is my belief at all, but you're looking at this church here, and all of these energies coming in through the steeple, and the people are inside, and I don't see it being too far out of reach for a non-believer to look at this and say, well, perhaps this is the channels in which those heavenly miracles are being processed through, for people who are either being healed or overfilled with the Holy Spirit, the tongues of fire in the book of Acts. Is this the highways that the angels or the Spirit of God moves through to contact and get in touch with humankind? I don't know the answers to that, but I think it is I think it's a healthy thing to do, to step back as a Christian and try to just see where does this fit into our perspective. And so that was just my thoughts when I'm sitting here staring at the church is, that's just where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Me personally, man, I just think about all the other things that are hidden from us.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah.
That's what I think of. And why would they hide this from us?
Yeah.
And he said money. Well, yeah, money. Okay, cool. But the people that run this world print the money.
Mm-hmm.
What they need is power and more of it. They crave power and control.
Right.
They can print the money.
Yeah.
So why is it they're hiding this from us? And my natural reaction, we spoke about this earlier, is to assume it's because we could do a lot of good with it. They don't hide the things that are bad for us from us. They don't do that. Oh, there's mercury. Let's put it in your vaccines. You know what I mean? Oh, fluoride, is bad for you. Let's put it in the water. They don't hide the bad things from us. That they don't hide things that are bad for us from us. That's
Right.
my instinct. And if it's here, God created it. Now you can say, oh, God created these, like all these plants that are drugs and hallucinogens and all that. We don't know what He created it for. We know that it's been used for those things. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Think about the marijuana plant. Think about all the things it can be used for medicinally.
Right.
You know what I mean? But then people use it to get high. And I'm not judging anybody out there. It's not my place to judge. But what I'm saying, that's just the obvious one there. You can use hemp for clothes and all kinds of things, flame retardant clothing. I mean, you can use it for countless things.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But I mean, it could be used for something else. So I mean, if God created it, it's here for a purpose. So the Aether is for a purpose. And it's here, we can test it in the physical realm. So it's not just a spiritual thing. I know a lot of people try to make it like this super spiritual thing, and I believe it can be used for those purposes. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely think it could be. I don't think we're supposed to at all. But
Right.
it is here in the physical realm, and we can tap into it. And if it was a part of creation, there must be a reason. So,
Right.
I mean, to me, it's mind blowing that this has been hidden away from us. So let's get into this next video and let's talk about a little bit where it started being hidden. I think it was before this as well, but just in the public sphere of knowledge, like we talked about before. Let's go ahead and check this out.
Change. They started changing every single thing. They started removing certain parts of the history. They started rewriting the history. 1920s is about that time. Educational system started changing everything. Rockefeller educational system. So if you find books, you want to find books before 1920s. Because if you don't find books before 1920s, you're usually being told a bunch of nonsense. And you look at a lot of the free energy books too, and everything related to the ether. That's before 1920s. The ether was removed from the periodic table after 1908. Every book you look into, it talks about ether and terrestrial magnetism and all of these things. 1908, that was removed off the periodic table. And that was removed so that people would not believe in the ether. They would think it's woo-woo. They would think it's pseudoscience. Those are all terms of the Rockefeller educational system. Coming up with terms to debunk the truth and debunk what we were once connected to. Then when you get rid of ether, you get rid of everything related to the fifth element and the quantum. You get rid of all of that. And then you make up a whole new narrative and you remove all that so that when you can't explain something, you just say, I don't know what it is.
Wow. Wow.
And like we always say, do your own research on this. Go back and check all this out. Go check out, everything you can find about Tesla and the ether. Find out everything you can about old periodic tables. If you have old encyclopedias, leave it in the comments. If you want to sell old encyclopedias, email us because I'll buy them. I want anything pre-World War II and pre-World War I can get my hands on because I'd like to pass it down to my children. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but definitions change every day. The way biology is looked at changes every day. I would like to leave my children with something they can look back on and get some kind of a normalcy and some kind of truth out of, because it looks like the way that we're going, it's not looking bright.
Absolutely.
So, Bronson, what do you think are some of the reasons why they would have pulled it off the periodic table?
Perhaps there's too much use of good. Perhaps it's too accessible. You mentioned something earlier about the power. Like you said, these guys do print the money. I mean, what's money to them, other than a construct to keep you and me doing 80-hour weeks, But you get to a point where if you're so power hungry, if you reach the top, the pinnacle, the limits and the extent of your own power, instead of, sharing or helping other people get there, you might say, in order for me to, have this perception of even more power, what I have to do is take away from others. You know, you see these guys on a very, simple scale that we can all understand. There are people out there that everybody knows somebody like this who they can't lift themselves up. They don't have what it takes to make themselves a better person. Instead of lifting them up, they want to try to take you down. Instead of ascending, they take you down. And these guys may have reached this, the extent of what they might be able to have for world power or domination or what have you. And that greedy, power hungry mentality is unsatisfied. It never stops. It constantly consumes. And once it consumes all it can, it looks at people like you and me and says, well, let's just strip and take away. I think there's a lot of things that you could look at and speculate, at least, as to why they might want us to not know about this stuff. So
I think it's electromagnetism. I think that's the reason.
Yeah.
Me personally, I think they don't want us to understand exactly how this place works. If they can keep us in the dark, they can tell us anything and fool us.
Right.
Because if you have the Aether and electromagnetism, you don't need to be on a spinning ball hurling through space.
Right.
You know what I mean? There's no gravity then. If the Bible, from what the Bible says, the biblical cosmology, then, there is no gravity.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's
if you were the Aether and electromagnetism, you wouldn't need gravity, and that would confirm the Bible.
Yeah, and we can't have that. No.
No. Also, you can also, if the whole world has free power, you can't control which countries can develop and which countries cannot develop. You can't, press your finger on the scales and determine winners and losers.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because if any place doesn't have manufacturing capability, you can control their, development all the way through. You know what I mean? But if these people could tap into the Aether and get energy without the manufacturing developments, they would be able to unlock civilization there and do it in a different way and understand science and mathematics in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Now, I don't know any. This is all just thus think of me, and I think thus think of Bronson. We're just, kind of going through this together, guys. And like I said, we're all learning together. We are not experts on this. Just a lot of information out there, and a lot of cool stuff out there. Now, I'd like you to, keep in mind what we saw with those buildings at the beginning of that the video before last, and how it had the spire coming up and drawing the Aether down into it for energy, and then going down in the resonator into the dome. Now, let's go ahead and start looking at these other videos, and we're going to look a little bit at some of these older buildings, and we're going to get into these older buildings from what people call the old world buildings and Antiquitech, and a little bit into how this ties into a nation that disappeared.
Sure. You want to take a look at this Aether phone real quick, or you want to wait on that?
Yeah, let's check out the Aether phone while we're talking about it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think this is a great visual on wireless power. So.
Hey, Bronson, let's pause it for just 1 second.
Yeah.
Let's look at what the caption says at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is called
the frequency of the person playing to interrupt the waves and register a sound.
Right. If you're at home listening and not watching, or this guy is playing what looks like a little old music box, you're almost like a jukebox sorta, and he's not touching any buttons or strumming any strings, or there's nothing. He's just waving his hands around in front of what looks like maybe some small iron rods, and the vibrations coming off of him is interrupting the waves in between these bars, and it registers as a sound. They call it, I could be mispronouncing this, the theremin, and it's also referred to as the Aether phone. And he's hitting these keys, bro. These notes is on point. This sounds just like Somewhere Over the Rainbow. So very cool, man.
So cool.
So neat, man. It makes me really happy to see that. I don't know. I mean, some of the sounds of the vibrato coming off of that, it's just those minor shakings in his hands. It's just so cool.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, the way he changes his hand, the grip might be like something like a fist. You're at home, you can't see it. Sometimes he opens his hand and it changes the entire sound. It's just so interesting, man. I've never seen one. Austin and I are both fans of music. We come from a family that, most people have some type of instrument that they can at least play somewhat shape or form. And dude, I want to get my hands on one of these. This is so cool here. It's just neat. I mean, he's hitting those notes, man. He's killing that. So, um, if
I
you
imagine
guys,
that takes decades of practice to be able to be that good at, man. He
yeah.
just has such command over that.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure you're right. It makes you wonder, and again, we're back to speculation here, so don't clip this audio of me saying this. It makes you wonder. I wonder exactly just, what was that harp looking like that David played? In the Book of Psalms, it talks about how David created instruments, and made new instruments, and some of them had 10 strings, and it makes you wonder. It's very interesting here. So. But anyway, there's that. I mean, we've all heard the "Somewhere Over the Rainbow" song before. This has only got 17,000 views. That just bothers me. You'd feel like this should be millions of views, man. It's just. I wonder why it's not out there. If there was somebody twerking in this, we'd have
Yeah,
millions.
that's what I was about to say. If it had some half-naked girl on it playing it, it'd have 10 billion views. It's just
Exactly right.
fallen world, man. All right, so we're going to check out a little bit of this architecture here. Now, this is a trailer for a movie. Let's go up a little bit so we can give full credit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, Stu Peters world premiere. All right, so this actually came on tonight at 8 p.m. or actually yesterday when everybody would be viewing this. It came out at 8 p.m. and we have not seen it yet. It's covering a lot of the same stuff that we're talking about here, and so we're gonna go ahead and play this trailer for you. And these old world architecture, like these old world buildings, they tie directly into this Aether conversation, and all this ties together. And it all seems like lots of, the WEF talks about the Great Reset. It feels a lot like we've had a very great reset within the last 300 years. Something happened and we've lost technology, lost time. It seems like a whole civilization was just wiped out and that we inherited the ashes of it somehow. Let's take a look at this video and just to give everybody a better understanding of what I'm talking about.
There's a lot of architecture in the world today on every continent of buildings that are much larger than you would think people of our height would build.
Cities in America that look as though they were constructed in medieval Europe.
The outside's incredible, but the inside is built like a palace.
I'm not sure if there were even any schools of architecture back then.
How did they know how to do this stuff?
We're at the pinnacle of our civilization now. This is the best it gets. The best we've ever done. Look at the quality of these walls.
Now you'll go through a neighborhood and every home looks the same.
Had we known we're going backwards, everyone would be pissed.
As an architect of 20 years, I like to look at a building as telling its own story. I like to say that stones don't lie.
And they're giving us timelines of like a year. It was built in a year.
The history that we've been told is a lie.
Why would a regular-sized human make something so massive?
How did they build that beautiful building? Was that building here longer?
I feel like the building was there already.
What was actually in the towers? What kind of technology was up there?
These buildings were built by the prior civilization.
A beautiful, easy, graceful method of travel flushed down the drains.
Also, pause it there and go back about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Back to where those spires and everything were on those buildings. Yeah, look at that. Now, look at the top of that. And you have all these domes. why everywhere in the world is there always a dome with a spire on top? Is that just the most beautiful thing we can make, or is there a reason for that?
Mm.
Why is it everywhere? Why is there always a dome with a spire? And we've seen it in old architecture all over the world. And I've been looking into this for a few years, this ancient architecture, and really the Aether is opening this up to me. I was thinking along the lines of ley lines possibly, but the Aether really brings this home to me.
Yeah.
And we saw it with the test. Now, why is it always a dome and a spire, Bronson? Do you know?
I'm seeing so many windows here on this building, and I'm thinking, obviously you want to let the sunshine in, but there's so many rooms, and there's got to be corridors where you can't let sunshine in. There's got to be, I mean, in this time period, correct me if I'm wrong, so many candles, you would need 1,000 candles just to light this building up, So is it possible that they're using these to pull power from the ether in order to, I don't know, light this building up or to have some type of power generated through there? What's your line of thinking on that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that's what it's for. I don't know why else they would have domes and spires all over the world. I mean, I don't think that that's particularly beautiful, or that there was, what was the reason for that?
I don't know.
They're supposedly building these things with horse and buggy and pulleys.
Yeah.
Doing it within a year.
Yeah.
Is it just a dome and a spire is the most logical thing to put on top? I mean, I don't know, man. To me, it's a little coincidental. Push play real quick on the video, and I believe the next frame or two has some more buildings.
What kind of technology was up there?
Go back one frame. I don't know if we can get it. It was so fast. Oh, right there again. Domes and spires and domes and spires.
Check out this lion with the wings.
It's hard to see.
Yeah, this is so neat.
Yeah.
Look at this one with all these little orbs around it and stuff. Man, it's so neat here. Domes and spires, man. Might be a silly question to ask, but doesn't the dome on the rock, isn't that got a spire on the top of it too?
I believe it does. Yeah, look at that, man. All the spires. It's
Right.
either got that cone shape, like up there at the very top, or it's got the spire coming down to some kind of a dome, whether it's a perfectly rounded dome or more of a cone shape. But I mean, every one of these buildings you see here, I mean, there's got to be something to it, man. There's got to be something to it.
This looks like a power cable. This over here looks like, what you would use to get antenna TV back in the day, doesn't it? Like,
Yeah. I mean, it's to me, it makes perfect sense. I don't understand how they pull it down.
So here's a little bit of like that one video we saw with the ether in practical use. You have the wire that goes up into the sky, and here I am talking like as if I'm an expert on the stuff. I'm not, but you have to have a mesh, right? So there's some form of a plate, and you take something that can conduct electricity, you lay it on that plate. When you leave it up there in the sky, the problem is that the ether is nothing but volts, which is potential energy, of course. But you have to have some type of amperage to flow the volts through the wire up to what you're charging. Like that other guy used the bell, Franklin's bell. Well, Franklin's bell can't be ran without amperage. And so these things right here look exactly like a plate to me. When we run that experiment, these little spires right here that have all these little webbing sticking out, it seems to be what grabs those positively charged electrons. And once they grab those positively charged electrons, it has the amperage to run down through that wire, hit the ground, which is going to be ground is negative electrons, of course. And once those two things hit, boom, boom, you got charges going. So again, here I am speaking like as if I'm an expert, and I'm not. I'm speculating on what these little thingies right here might be and why they're webbing out. So, that's
another question I have is everything in these buildings, is it conductive, or did they have some different kind of apparatus to transfer power from one place to the other, or did they have some kind of technology to store great amounts of power? Because I imagine that this is steady energy and you can't turn it off.
Right. And I'm wondering perhaps
So,
the
so you know, there's a lot of questions and you have very few answers, but we've shown that the Aether appears to be real.
Yeah.
On a large scale and a small scale.
Right.
And
I
then
wonder if it's in the
a
morning.
lot of the old buildings have these spires and domes. It's
Mhm.
just I have a lot of questions. You know, I have a whole lot of questions, but there seems to me at least, it feels like that there are answers.
Mm-hmm.
We may just not have them yet, but there are answers.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and let this video play out, man, and hopefully
Sure.
we don't have any more technical difficulties.
Yeah, man. Here we go.
These buildings were built by the prior civilization.
A beautiful, easy, graceful method of travel flushed down the drains.
Nope, no more airships.
And they have to lie to us about it. They had to write the storybooks. We learn about one fire, the Chicago Great Fire.
There were fires in every major city.
Burned to the ground.
It's impossible for any stone building to be burning down.
What's being kept from us is huge.
What a world it must have been.
So there's literally been a cover-up of history more than one way.
Oh, the humanity!
Top tier trailer, might I add. That was nice.
What's that?
I said a top tier trailer. That was a nice trailer.
Yeah, after we get done recording, I'm gonna watch this as I'm going to bed.
Yeah,
if we can get through this, yeah, guys, we're gonna edit it all together. But we've been cut off 4 times now. Had the screen just completely shut down and computer shut down. So, you know, I don't know what's going on, man. If we're getting attacked, I don't think we're big enough to get attacked yet. But who knows? But yeah, I'm gonna go watch this movie. I've seen a lot of Stu Peters stuff, so I'm hesitant to recommend anything before watching it, but I be, you know, Christians. So just so you know, you will get some newer age stuff with this, but you have to just be discerning and look at what the actual physical evidence is. Now, if somebody starts going off into, you know, theosophy and this and that, then you know, hey man, I'm going down this path. This is the path for me. But there's physical evidence there, and if there's physical evidence that it is a part of creation, and God made it, and you know, who knows what we can use and do with this, you know, long term. But it is coming back into the public sphere, and it just so happens to be coming back into like the cultural knowledge, right? As they're talking about another great reset. You know, that's you know, a couple of those guys on there, Martin Schlecky or whatever, that's Flat Earth British. I don't know if anybody out there is familiar with him, but he's got some interesting videos. BJ Penn is a former MMA, UFC champion, just a monster in the octagon. Yeah, Lord Jamar, who's a hip hop legend. Got people from all different kinds of walks of life, architects, everything in that movie. So I'm super excited to go watch that. So plug for Old World Order by Stu Peters. I believe you can stream it on X or stream it on Rumble. I believe those are the only 2 platforms that are carrying it, and on his network. But it is available free on Rumble and X, and I will be watching it after we do this video. We were planning on doing this before that dude released that, so before we even knew about it. So it just happened to line up that, hey, we're talking about the old world stuff the same night. So we didn't steal it from him. We mentioned in a video about 2 weeks ago, then another one last week. So it's been something we've been planning to do, and we happened to come across it at the same time. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Bronson, let's see what we got next for him. I think we're going to get into a little bit of the Tartaria and how these buildings play in to that theory. And this video is by Jared Boosters. That's Jared Boosters. So I do want to give credit to Jared. It's Jared, Jarid Boosters. One of my favorite channels for ancient architecture. He does a really good job and finds old photographs of different civilizations in different times. But this is the Tartarian hypothesis, and he breaks this down a little bit. Bronson, in the beginning of this video, I'm probably going to ask you to pause so people can read some of the documents he pulls up here. It's going to show us.
y'all.
Good.
Sorry.
Sorry. They're going to show a CIA document that was declassified that talks about how the Russians or the Soviet Tartars. So let's go ahead and get into this, man.
Here we go.
Welcome back. My research commenced what feels like ages ago with the lost country or kingdom of Tartary or Tartaria. What began as simply seeing photographs of different castles and cities beyond my imagination and different palaces beyond my recognition, and coming to the realization that these cities no longer existed today was really the fuel that started this fire into looking into the old world. Many of these cities themselves had been severely rebuilt after disasters that occurred throughout the 1800s and early 1900s. And seeing the outcry of people who were interested in learning the truth and the comments of others, I decided to proceed with my own research and to produce my own videos on the subject. Now, over a year later, and after 100 videos.
Now, if you go back to that picture right there, look, you got the dome with the spire with the reflecting pool.
Yep.
Now, I don't believe anybody else talks about these reflecting pools, but it seems to be a common occurrence around this as well. Mark, go ahead, sir.
Now, over a year later, and after 100 videos with you, we have looked through countless accounts of what we have labeled the old world, cities that have shaped the history of mankind, and buildings which redefine our understanding of architecture. And yet, one thing we do not, and seemingly will not have, is an answer to how all these things are related. When we look into the ancient history of these buildings, especially of the infrastructure of these ancient cities.
Now, on the left there, that's the tower that Tesla built. Right there. I think it's Waldorf Tower. Sorry, I can't hardly say it. But we can see this domed energy and lighting device over here and how they suppose that it worked. The primary raw storage and absorber of energy, information and energy storage, communication energy converter, Aether toroid chamber, main energy storage, light window, primary energy conversion coil, light reflector. So this is their hypothesis on how this works. Okay. But yeah, that picture on the left-hand side, that is Tesla's tower.
Wow.
See the dome at the top?
Yep. Very interesting, man. I'm interested in this section right here. I'm highlighting with the mouse. So this real dark color seems like nothing's getting through. I'm curious if that is the disc I was speaking of earlier, that the platform that you have to use to turn the volts into the amps. And I'm not sure.
That could be.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. Wow.
One thing comes to mind for me right off the bat, and that is a CIA document that was released to the public in recent years, but the document itself comes to us from right after World War II. It details how the Soviet Union was rewriting the history of a land known as Tartary. At one time, this was a massive disclosure, which led many of us to strive for further proofs of this lost empire. However, that document, in my opinion, is just a small morsel or crumb compared to the overarching narrative which is being hidden behind closed doors.
All right there, sir. All right, so we pause this for you guys. If you want, go ahead and take the time to pause now and to read this document. If you look online, you can find it pretty easily, but go ahead and pause it here for a little bit and read through it if you'd like. All right, Bronson, go ahead, sir.
With
you
that in
remember,
mind, in today's video,
it said those mummies were found in, I believe, in Chile, and thousands of years before the Egyptians. So just understand that history has been manipulated and timelines have been tampered with and technology has been hidden. And the more we look into this, the more, you're going to have to just believe in your Bible, because let God be true and every man a liar, because mankind and the people that control this place have kept this stuff from us and have told us a fabricated, trumped up version of history and a fabricated, trumped up version of technology. Go ahead, sir.
we will be looking at Anacalypsis by Godfrey Higgins. More specifically, we will be focusing on chapter 1 of this immense work, which I will read you a large excerpt from. Before that, however, I'd like to show you how this might just be one of the most important books you will read this year, and how the information contained within can provide you not only with a better perspective, a clearer view, but also with its thousands of references contained will establish a basis
We'll
for
go
you to
ahead
further
and
your research.
stop it there, because it goes into a little bit of esoteric things that I don't want to get into on our Christian channel. Do you have any thoughts on that last video you'd like to share?
Not in particularly. I mean, we haven't talked a whole lot about Tartaria or the Tartar people on this channel just yet. We'll get there.
What's that?
Can you hear me?
Barely. What did you say, sir?
I said we haven't talked much about Tartar or the Tartarian people just yet on our channel, but we are certainly going to get there.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like I said, this is just a brief overview of this stuff, just to get you interested in it. You can do your own research, and then most likely next week we can get into Tartaria and some of these bigger buildings. And we have a poll in our community section on our page. Guys, go check that out and vote for what you want us to cover. But if the vote stands pat where it is right now, we haven't had very many people vote. But if it stands pat, then this is going to lead us right into our next conversation. So as we go along, we'll tie everything in together. But let's take a look at some of these old buildings.
Let's do it.
Howdy y'all, welcome back. Today we have an incredible dive into the first images of the technology-driven old world structure that was known as the Crystal Palace. This existed in England. Many of you may be familiar with this structure, but today I've decided to peel back the proverbial veil and dive into the history further, looking for the oldest images I could find of this immense and remarkable structure. Before we can get into the architecture itself, we first must address the current narrative. Essentially, the first Crystal Palace was built in Hyde Park to house the entirety of the Great Exhibition, the first World's Fair, designed to introduce the Anglo-Saxon world to the discoveries and technology being founded around the world. The entirety of the building seems to have arose by chance, as we're told over 60,000 panels of glass were manufactured by the Chance brothers to cover a frame of over 990,000 square feet. This was the most complex glasswork in history. Miraculously, scouring museums and forums searching for photographs of the original Crystal Palace, I found but a handful. Nearly every depiction of the original palace in Hyde Park is a sketch or drawing. The photographs that I could find from the original palace, which we are looking at right now, mostly seem to focus on the interior. However, we can still see so many anomalies within the image. It's as if we're seeing a showcase of inherited objects from the destruction of the feudal system, or the progression of the old world ruling systems into the new world system that seemed to be ordered by banking. I digress, but the flashpoint for the narrative and this history appears to be hidden within the World's Fairs. Now listen to these official dates. On March 15th, the Ides of March, 1850, roughly just over 1 year before the Fair of 1851 was to open, an executive building committee began accepting submissions for the fair's building design. According to these official documents, the building had to be temporary, simple, as cheap as possible, and easy to build in rapid time. Look at the structure of the Crystal Palace. Does it adhere to any of these requirements? Furthermore, another date, May 1st, 1851, the 75th anniversary of the founding of the Illuminati, which began on May 1st, 1776, was chosen as the official opening day for the first World's Fair. Again, are you beginning to understand what the World's Fairs truly were? The English Committee had received some 245 entries, including 38 international submissions from Australia, the Netherlands, Belgium, Hanover, Switzerland, Brunswick, Hamburg, and France. All of the countries mentioned had their greatest architects submit their designs for the Great Exhibition Building in England. And I find it so fascinating that when we look at the root or the origin to these countries, it appears that mostly all of them have ties to the Germanic tribes and to the Holy Roman Empire. But I digress on that because none of these designs were chosen. We're told around 1850, a horticulturist by the name of Joseph Paxton had become well known to the upper class of England, creating examples of smaller glass greenhouses somewhat resembling the Crystal Palace on garden properties around the country. He was then invited to a meeting with the commissioner of the building project, Henry Cole.
Kind of a base doing our next videos coming up. You heard, dude? Okay, look, I don't know what's going on tonight, man. I'm showing the whole time. I'm showing I have like excellent signal, but I'm cutting out. So we've gone through some of the things in the Bible that talk about sound and how Tesla talked about frequency and sound, and how Terrence Howard was relating that the elements to sounds and colors and how everything's all linked together, almost a harmonic, symbiotic nature, which to me feels like what God would do. Now that's just me and how I view things, and taking into account the creation account was spoken into existence. And to me, it kind of rings true. Some of the other things, the Terrence Howard thing, I can, goes against my belief system completely. But as far as that section that we shared earlier, that seems to be, it seems to work out to me in my mind. How everything has a frequency and a sound and a resonance to it. What do you, Bronson? You've been a little bit quiet tonight. Or do you have anything that you want to add to this?
Yeah, I think the gentleman, his name escapes me. The guy that was on the Joe Rogan podcast, one of the first guys that was talking about you divide the light by two. That balance there between your actual physical things that you hold in your hand, like the stones and the mortars that make the building, the tiles on the roof and all. I mean, we talked a little bit about music tonight. Those sounds and everything has to be in a balance. The way that he was speaking, how carbon levels things out, and he was saying that silicon, beryllium, and some of those things are together on that little spiral that he showed. And I thought that was interesting because one of the conductors people used for that plate I was speaking about in the sky was using the silicone. And so I'm curious that, I understand that these spires are collecting energy. The domes inside of them might be transmitting them or transferring the actual data to another location. But the actual stones and maybe the mortar might be something that I didn't think of before, excuse me, before the Joe Rogan show, that could actually be helping to balance out these frequencies. If you and I are trying to clap on beat and someone else around the other side of the hallway is just sitting there clapping on all these random beats, it makes things not right. It throws the balance off.
Right.
And
yeah.
So, that I'd never quite considered that before until tonight, that perhaps the actual, maybe even the foundation, the slab, if you will, that the building stands upon might be what makes the ground. And then your actual structure of the building, the height in the walls, could actually be what is keeping a hold of this balance. If there wasn't a balance, I don't think it would work. And that's all speculation, but in my head on paper, it makes a lot of sense.
All of this has been hidden, man. So it's really all speculation. Even people's videos are pulling up a lot of it's speculation. But did you notice And that Stu Peters video, and if you look into this, I know I've looked at a little more than you have. When you look at these buildings with these spires and everything, a lot of times these doors are these huge iron doors that are 30 feet high. And I don't want to go down the Giants path of games. We've done it for, we have a 4-part series, that covers it. Check the community page. I put the links to them in order. Some of them are on the commentary, and some of them are Christian conspiracy. But why would you need 30-foot doors?
Is it just to flex?
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all.
Mm-mm.
Unless you have people that are much bigger than what you have today.
Right. Right.
And then, he's tying Tartary into it because it seems to be the case that, that civilization is gone. And a lot of people theorize that the last reset was getting rid of this Tartarian empire. I think we'll get into a lot more of the old world stuff. And before we cut off again, because God knows I've had enough of that tonight. Yeah, next week, I think we're going to just do a continuation of this. And, this is Ancient Echoes. So we're going to look at some of these ancient structures, and maybe it'll be next week, maybe it'll be at a different time, but some of these old world structures and how the Aether may play into what they were doing with these structures. And there's a lot of things that we'll touch on, star forts and Tartaria, and some of the old writings that talk about the Tartars. And there's a lot of old maps too. There's an old map that depicts North America here in the United States as being a part of Grand Tartary.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a firm believer that our history has in the timeline where I don't even believe that we have the right year. I believe a lot of this has been hidden from us. There's been more resets and catastrophes than what we've been told. I don't even know that anybody does know, but if it is known, it's within the mystery schools and within the Kabbalist secret societies and within the higher ranks of Freemasonry, not the Blue Lodge. Those are just dudes drinking at a club, basically, with their buddies. I'm talking about the actual, the higher ranks, and when you start getting into the higher rites, and there's a lot more to that than what and all the Masonic regalia he had, and how high of a degree he went, and how many different orders there are within that. There's plenty of esoteric orders. Somebody has this knowledge. Somebody has something that can, that has true history and true bloodlines, and knows, what exactly happened. Us, just as laymen, aren't getting that story. We're not being taught it in school. Hell, half the things they taught me in school has changed now. Different people invented things than when I went to school. Apparently, inventors, changed. It's a little ridiculous, but I think we're gonna go ahead and close it out now. It's been kind of a struggle tonight with we're having technical difficulties on my end, I believe. So, Bronson, you have any closing words before we get out of here tonight?
Yeah, man. There's all sorts of amazing things that we're going to get into in the following weeks when we, continue to dive down into this subject. It's called Christian conspiracy, man. We can connect all sorts of dots, and I'm a little irritated at myself for not thinking about this earlier. That when that airplane went into that little portal there, I neglected to mention the fact that there's all sorts of whirlwinds that we see in the King James Bible that Elijah gets taken up in. I believe it's the Apostle James who speaks to an Ethiopian leader. I think he's a prince. He baptizes him in a pool, and as soon as he's done baptizing him, he gets caught up in a whirlwind and taken somewhere else. And it seems to happen a couple of times in the Bible, and there's something going on here, man. And I think if we look deep enough in between the verses and the chapters of our book, we'll find some answers. I don't think God left us unequipped here. I just think it's an us thing. You know, it's a modern day man problem. But um, the more we look into this and the deeper down the rabbit hole we go, I think things are going to become more clear as we search this thing out. But honestly, man, I'm just excited to do it. I love having new trials ahead of me. I love having new subjects to journey into and try to discover more truths. Because at the end of the day, all it does is it brings us closer to God. It's just one step closer to understanding, the fabric He used to sew the universe and all creation together. So.
What worries me, man, is tearing a hole in the veil of reality. Is when we start talking about the angel of the bottomless pit, and I mentioned CERN before, but I mean, they've had the director of research, I believe it was the director of research at CERN, talk about how they're opening portals and they may send something through it or something else may come through it. It's like, man, um, it's to me as a Christian and me understanding what the Word of God says, that this is very worrisome. I believe if the Aether is here, and I do believe it is, it's a part of creation. It's just like a blade of grass or a tree is, and we talked about before. It's not the knowledge, and it's not the tree or the hammer. You know what I mean? A hammer can help build a house, or it can beat somebody to death. Um, it's about what you do with it, and I don't believe we're supposed to be ripping the veil of reality. I don't, and I definitely don't believe that. I don't know, man. I just hope those people in that airplane were gone before they went through there. Because I mean, I don't think on the other side of reality of our physical realm, there's a whole lot of good um, wherever they went.
Yeah, God only knows, man. That is
If that's what was happening, unless we were looking at some kind of a teleportation uh, technology. But if it was just what he said, it's just ripping a hole in reality, creating an artificial black hole.
Yeah.
It's bad news, man. That's bad news.
Yes. What's wild is, man, somebody had that clip. There's somebody out there knew that clip existed, and then you and I and every other normal civilian spent like it was probably 2 or 3 weeks worth of time. News wasn't quite as fast then as what it is now. 2 or 3 weeks worth of time. We went through the black box. We went through the you can track a cell phone, but you lose an airplane. I mean, it was 24-hour coverage on the news forever. Again, if you're too young to know about it, or if you just forgot about it, go back and just watch that stuff, man, because it was all over the place. You mean to tell me nobody had that clip at the time? Nobody knew? Come on, man.
And JFK Jr. when his plane went down, they couldn't find the black box.
Oh,
he was running against Hillary Clinton for senator of New York.
Well, I don't want to say too much about her. She'll we'll be missing our black box too. Everything will be off, man. It's there's just a lot of these lines end up coming back to the same place, dude. It's
if you find me hanged to a tree and shot myself twice in the head, it wasn't suicide.
Oh God,
man, I really wish that it would have been so technical difficult, because we were really starting to get into it and got a little broken up, but guys will try and edit it together and make it look good for you guys. And believe me, there's a lot more to this with the ancient structures. If you want to get a head start on it, check out Michelle Gibson, Jared Boosters, watch that Stu Peterson documentary. I'm about to go do that right now. I'm super excited about that, to see if there's some new information, and I'll bring it to you, and I'll give full credit to whoever says it in the video and all that stuff, like we always do. We don't try and take anything for anybody. These guys put in a lot of work and a lot of hours making this content, and anything that we show here, we have no problem letting you know who they are, where to find them. So I'm going to go watch the Stu Peters video. I hope you guys do too. And we'll probably talk about it a little bit on next week's Christian Conspiracy. But just for me, I love you guys, and I really appreciate the support out there. And say a prayer for us, and we'll be praying for you guys. Anything you guys want us to talk about, leave it in the comments. Make sure you smash the like button and share this out to anybody who'd be interested in it. And we'll see you next week on Christian Conspiracy, and catch us on Sunday for our Genesis commentary. We'll be covering Noah's flood and breaking that all the way down. So love you guys. God bless you. Have a good night, y'all.
We'll see you next time on Ancient Echoes.